one Sunday afternoon in October, about 8 years ago here in Winnipeg. It was a gray, kind of sad, crappy day outside, and I was strolling along Corden with my middle daughter, Kenzie, and we were sad too. It had been about 2 weeks that her and myself and her dad had split up, and we just walked silently, neither one of us really saying anything to one another. We happened upon this little antique shop, and we'd never done this before, but we strolled in and met a man, greeted us at the door. Sunday, he's dressed in a full black suit, tie. He welcomes us to the store, and it was so weird because I expected it to smell really old and be dusty, and it was meticulously clean. He told us to go ahead and have a look around, and so we did. We started browsing, still not really talking to one another. And we eventually ended up standing in front of a cabinet. The cabinet was full of all kinds of treasures, and the man wandered over and he said to Kenzie, "So what do you like?" And Kenzie was looking in the cabinet. She politely said to him, "Oh, it's all really nice." And he said, "No, like, what do you really like? When you look in there, what do you like?" So again, very politely, she said, "Oh, well, those are really nice. That's nice. Well, that's nice too." He said, "You know, I've traveled all over the world, young lady." He put his hand on her forearm, and he said, "The most interesting people that I've met in the world are people who know what they like." And he encouraged her to stand and stay looking in front of that cabinet until she decided what she really liked. At this point, I felt kind of invisible. I'd moved myself away from the cabinet, and I was just watching the interaction. And I thought to myself, do I even know what I like? Like, if I was to have gone home right then and looked in my china cabinet, was there actually anything in there that I really liked? Like, there was tons of treasures I collected along the way, gifts people had given me, treasures of other people who had left me in inheritances, but did I actually like any of those things? Now, don't get me wrong. At this stage in my life, I knew what I didn't like. I didn't like negativity. I didn't like people who were indecisive. I didn't like rudeness. There was a lot of things I knew I didn't like. But did I really know what I liked? At that point, Kenzie said, I like that. And the man came over. Now, I'm not kidding you. This really happened. The man came over. He took Kenzie back to his cash register area, and he pulled out a box. She had chosen a vase. It was kind of an ornate shape, had a red color with blue flowers on it. He took out 6 replicas of this vase. The beginning stage of it, when they pounded the metal and shaped it. The second stage, when they put these little wires on it. The third, the fourth, the fifth, 6 stages, I believe, of this vase. He explained to her where it was made in the world, what it was made of, the meager amount of money that the people who made it were paid. At the end, she thanked him for teaching her this lesson and of taking the time to explain to her what this was. And he said, well, I didn't want you to just know what you liked. I wanted you to actually know what it is that you like. So we wandered out of the antique store and we started walking down the street. I was blown away. Like, I was blown away at this point. I said, Kenzie, you're 15 years old, and you just learned a lesson today that in 41 years of my life, I never learned. This lesson is so valuable to you. At this point, I made a vow to myself that I was going to fill my life with things and people that I really liked. So how do you feel now? No. How do you really feel now? That became the mantra for my life. I asked myself that question after everything I did. After everything I ate, I asked myself that question. I'd leave my office at the end of the day, and as I walked towards my car, I'd ask myself, how do you feel now? I'd go play ringette with my rats, and I'd ask myself when I left, how do you feel now? I'd go for a run. I'd go grocery shopping. I'd clean my house. Any of these things, I'd ask myself after, how do you feel now? And I began to realize that some of the things that I'd sort of framed in my mind as negative chores, like a drag on my life, I really liked them. I loved a clean house. I loved having my kitchen stocked with food. I loved having company. So I began to reframe some of those chores. So instead of them feeling like a drag, they went on the list of things I liked. I had a pink Post-it note. I kept it beside my phone, and on the Post-it note, it said, "How do you feel now?" And every time my phone rang, I'd look at that note. You know, it's the weirdest thing when your marriage breaks down. For whatever reason, it seems to open the door to anybody who hates their husband. You see, you've been there. Or is not happy in their marriage, to just dump their crap all over you. So at a time when I really needed comforting, I needed help from my friends, I found that a lot of those phone calls were people calling to get comfort from me rather than to comfort me. I also found some people only called when they really needed something from me. But every time I hung up the phone, I asked myself the question, how do you feel now? A counselor once told me that as you grow and change, the people in your life will grow and change too. Some of them will grow with you, some of them will physically change. Stephanie got how many chances at the hug thing? 3, right? It's not easy living from a place where you're trying to do all the things you like. The one thing I really learned I liked was honesty. And to be honest with yourself, you have to be honest with everybody else. And that means sometimes you have to tell people things they don't really want to hear. And you have to be prepared to hear things you don't really want to hear. And I'm a helper by nature, so it's really hard for me to say no when people ask for my help. I began to try to use honesty as the premise for everything I did. Is this honestly what I want to do? Do I honestly have the time for this? Did I answer honestly? Do I need to call and say, no, I can't really do that? And people who know you're a helper, they can see your helper button. It's kind of like Staples Easy button. They can just push it when they know they need help from you. I'm still working at that. But to prepare for tonight's speech, I read through 7 journals. 7 journals that were kind of around the time that Kenzie and I took that walk on Corydon. And I came across a story that really related to getting to honesty in a way that it's really special, but it's also sometimes uncomfortable. I'm going to tell this story about Kenzie because I feel like I've already told you a little about her. Kenzie had a bedroom in the basement of our house here in Winnipeg, and she sent me a text. I was upstairs, she was downstairs. And the text said, "Mom, can you please come down? I need to talk to you." So, okay, I headed downstairs apprehensively. I had no idea what she was going to tell me. I went in her room. She closed the door and asked me to sit on the bed. I could tell she was really nervous. At this point, so was I. And then she took a big breath. "Mom, in a few minutes, Chris and Maddie are going to come over. They have a backpack. In the backpack, Chris is going to have a bottle of wine. We're going to drink the bottle of wine from coffee mugs. That's what we usually do, so you don't know we're doing it. We're going to get ready. It's called pre-gaming. And then we're going to go to the bar with our fake IDs because all of our friends are already there." Now, Kenzie was 17. She's a July birthday. She's in grade 12 at this time. And obviously, lots of her friends had turned 18 already. This wasn't the first time they were doing this. This was just the first time Kenzie chose to tell me. And she knew I was living a transparent life and trying to live from a place of honesty, and that I truly wanted to know my kids the same way their friends were getting the privilege to know them. When she finished saying all that, she looked at me and said, "So, how's this honesty thing working for you now?" Well, I talked to her about the ramifications of underage drinking and using fake ID, and I tried to be as responsible as I could. I even drove them there and picked them up. None of it felt good to me, but I did it. And you know, I learned that being perfectly imperfect, which is what I had to let my kids be in front of me, allowed me to get to know them better. And we're all perfectly imperfect. In fact, if you're here tonight and you know you're one of my friends, you are perfectly imperfect, just the way I like you.